Hey, what's happening with everybody? My name is Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes. Coming into Gatsby today, and I want to talk about the three image formats. There's the image tag, which is the classic lowercase img. There is also what you can use as the capital image for capital I-M-A-G-E, and the capital image, which is capital I-M-G. They work three different ways. The classic one is in blue, the traditional tag of IMG, but there's also the Gatsby image, and it talks about speedy, optimized images without the work. And there is also the React Bootstrap images that you can use using the image word capital IMAGE. We're going to go through all three of these and talk about what's the best way to use an image in Gatsby. And with that, let's get started. All right, welcome back. Once again, my name is Haydn Adams with A Designer Who Codes, and this channel is all about teaching you the best practices amongst design and coding when it comes to the web. For me, it's all about design. I want sites that are beautiful, but I also want sites that are beautiful that work for consumers, for viewers, and sites that make Google happy. And part of what makes Google happy are fast loading sites. And Gatsby does that in a really good way. But images are your biggest pain point. They can either hurt your site or help your site in one of three ways. And that's what this whole goal is today. I want to talk about the images and how your site can benefit or not benefit from writing code in a successful way. Now, just so you know how I'm working on this, I did use, if I actually go back into my iTerm 2, here we are. Let's go and start the Gatsby develop mode up. And while I'm talking about this, I want to also explain that I did obviously previously install the React Bootstrap. You can find that at reactbootstrap.github.io. And I already went through the installation process, and I also have a video if you want to know how you can install the React Bootstrap framework into your own Gatsby build. I also started with the Gatsby default starter. So this already comes built in with the Gatsby image. And if I go into 8000, my site looks like this. The only thing I've changed so far is I did apply the the React Bootstrap library. So some of the fonts may look a little different than traditional starter. And sorry, Spaceman, I took him out because we're going to bring in a much larger picture. And the picture I'm going to work with today is this large photo. Literally, I just called it large photo because I want to talk about how loading speeds can affect performance along with these three image sizes, or these three image tags, excuse me on that word. In here, I'm working with large photo. It's 13.8 megs. Here it is. It's beautiful. Was out vacationing when we actually still can vacation during this pandemic era. And during this photo I took, and I want to use it in this project. So I want to start with just the basics. The image tag, nothing crazy about it. In Gatsby, you have to import the any kind of image. So I'm going to go up here. Let me turn this one off for right now because part of designing in Gatsby, which I do love, is it says, hey, what are you doing? Did you do something right? Did you not do something right? And it's like, hey, you must have an alt prop. Yes, I obviously have not done anything to this image tag. So in order to import an image inside of Gatsby, the traditional way is importing, and I will say large image from ... going into the images. And I always double check to make sure I have the file name right. It never fails that uppercase, lowercase, spaces, anything you just happen to miss, I double check it at all times because I can miss things really easily. So I'm going to use the large image, and in here, I'm going to say image circ equals, and it is important to use an alt. So I will say beach photo taken from the South Pacific. Yay! Now we have our image tag and our image source for large image. And if I save it, let's take a look and see what happens. And where did my screen go for Safari? There it is. And as you can see, it is a very, very massive photo. So it's there, it works, and the image tag has been applied. Now, what I want to do next is I want to check something out on Google, because Google is the ultimate authority, because at the end of the day, we're building sites because we want to make sure Google likes them. And there's a great tool we can use to check this with. I'm going to head over to Chrome, because Chrome and Google, there you go. And in Chrome, I'm going to go and Google search Google Page Speed Insights. Now what this site does, and it's a really great tool to use if you are developing websites, and I'll probably make a video later on about this, but it basically says make your web pages fast on all devices. Now we're running Gatsby, and Gatsby, if we go back to its original page, gatsbyjs.org, fast in every way that matters. Hey, make your web pages fast on all devices. So let's test this site out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to, yes, redundant. I know I said photo image. If you don't know, if you are running Gatsby, it already kind of says that you don't need to redundant by saying image or photo and picture in the alt, because it's implied that the image is. And yes, I'm aware of that. So before we go too far, let's just say beach from the South Pacific. Now, if we do it this way, it should not give us any errors, and we're on success. So I'm going to stop this, and what I'm going to do is run a Gatsby build. And I already have a site previously built within Netlify, so let me head over to netlify.com, and I'm going to log in. And I have a great little site that I use that's a little subdomain called sandbox.adesignerwhocodes.com. This is just a URL that I can just keep throwing projects in, and I just change it up as I go along. So if you are new to Netlify, it's a great tool to use. It is free by default. It is what's called a CDN, or a content delivery network. But I want to show the results of using this image by default inside of the image tag. And the only way to use the developers.google.com/speed/page speed and insights is to have a URL. And I have a URL. So the great part about Netlify is if I go back and I use my public folder, it's 20 megs. Woo, that's pretty big. So in here, if I want to deploy this, I just have to drag and drop it. So this is a great way to test everything really effectively. So I'm going to drag and drop my public folder, drop it in. It's going to upload, and it's published. And now I can check to see, there it is, sandbox.designerwhocodes.com. Hi, people. There's our purple, and there's our picture. Let's run this through, where are we in Gatsby? There we are, Page Speed Insight. So I'm going to drop this URL, and let's see what Google says. Is this site built successfully, or are there better ways to approach this? So it's going to analyze the site. I did purposely throw a big picture in because I wanted to emphasize it. So I get an 81 out of 100. Now the goal is to be in the green whenever possible. And Gatsby does build fast sites, but if you notice, it took it 49 seconds effectively to serve this picture up. And it's like, you know what? You could make this picture a lot smaller and be a lot better. 81 for mobile and 77. That's not good for desktop. And usually you want to be, like I said, within 90 to 100 range and not be anywhere near this orange range. And we are running Gatsby. So the image tag, while it's easy to set up, it doesn't really work out well in the long run. So the image tag works, but is there a better tag we can use that makes things easier? Yes, there is the React Bootstrap image tag. And the reason why I use this one is it really gives it a little more control, not so much on size, but on design. So what I want to do is I want to bring in this image. And so getting started, I've already run the installation. and I've already added the CSS into my layout, which is part of the components in the Gatsby starter. What I want to do next is I want to customize Bootstrap. Where'd it go? I'm scrolling and looking. And here it is, importing. Just went by the wrong piece. So in here, what I want to do is I want to import something from Bootstrap. What do I import? I want to import images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say import curly brackets images from React Bootstrap, and it lowercased it, which I need to make sure it's uppercase images. So I'm going to say images, or image, I believe. Am I typing the wrong word? I probably am. No, it's images. So I want to import the image. That is correct. So let me go back and say image in this case. And of course, we're going to keep the large image for the import. Now, the real power of images in React Bootstrap is the ability to adjust the size based upon how you're fitting your content in, most importantly, fluid. So while image does work, the image, capital IMAGE for React Bootstrap, goes a little further. So what I want to do is, instead of saying image circ here, I'm going to bring in a capital word image, circ equals large image, and I'll say fluid. And what the fluid is going to do is able to actually redesign this site design. So if I save it, and if we go back into iTerm, and we say Gatsby develop, let's run this and take a look and see what's going on. I've also moved a few of the windows around, so I'm going to copy and paste a lot of content. I might as well keep Chrome up for the most part. And localhost 8000 will show up in about 10 seconds. So do I use the image tag a lot? No. If I know I'm going to use the image tag, I'd rather preferably use the capital image word because I can adjust my design to fit the fluid model. And what fluid does is, if you notice that this picture fits within the size of this container. And if I readjust it, notice how fluid moves my picture up and down. And that's the power of these two tags, is that baked into the word image is the React Bootstrap images. And if I want to add, we see right here, added the word fluid, and then it made the picture fluid. And if I want to make it rounded, I can add the word rounded to this as well. So adding these words work within the image of React Bootstrap. And now if I go back and I test this, what you will see are rounded corners of this picture. Now let's take out this image right here because it's not going to be built. I do have to keep the import because the large image is still working with the word image tag. Let's save that to make sure everything looks good. And it does, except it's probably going to yell at me because I don't have the alt information in here. So I have to say alt, it's a beach from the South Pacific. There we go. Always important to have the alt information on any image you work with. Even if it doesn't tell you to or not, it is proper to do so. So I'm going to follow proper protocol by putting the alt in the picture. So this project looks pretty good. Let's actually build this now. So far so good. Let me stop it, hitting Control C on the Macintosh, and I'm going to type Gatsby build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back up Safari, where I am logged into Netlify, and I'm going to deploy this site. So if I update my site, once it builds this, and what I ultimately want to do is I want to check and see within the page speed insights, is it working or is it not working? So I want to use that URL. I'll just keep it all in Chrome because I'm moving things back and forth in the Chrome tabs. And if we go back to iTerm, there we go. It's built in 32 seconds. Pretty small site, so it shouldn't take a long time to build. So I'm going to drag my public folder into Netlify. It's going to upload the project and publish it. And if I go back into sandbox.designerwhocodes.com and refresh, there's the picture. So it's cached the picture a little bit already in Chrome. So I want to go back and check the insights. So if I reanalyze this site, let's see what it says based upon the capital Img, Image from React Bootstrap. Again, we are running Gatsby, so this site is already built pretty fast, and we have an increase in speed. So we did go up to 84, and we're still at 77. So unfortunately or fortunately, it does give us the ability to customize the image a little more using fluid and rounded, but the fluid and rounded doesn't stop it from just having some pain points within the design. So I use image if I already have small pictures that I can just easily add fluid around it. If the pictures are already small and 30 or 40K, I'm good. I'm all set to go. But to really make this site shine, and I am using this as an extreme example because obviously I am using a 13.8 megabyte photo, and I do this more just for example purposes, we can see it, but I do want to use large photos. So how do we go about making this speed go faster? Well, the power lies in the Gatsby image, and that is where all the magic happens. So let's take a look at the page speed now with the capital Img with Gatsby Img. So as I mentioned at the start of this video, start of this broadcast, which is broadcast too, but the three tags were image, capital Image, and capital Img. And I've already previously installed Gatsby Img that came with the Gatsby starter. So we've already had that piece installed. So let's go in and actually add the elements that were required for Gatsby Img. The first thing I have to do is declare or import the GraphQL element. This is changed in version 3 that I do have to declare because we are going to go into some GraphQL elements for this to work. What I also have to do is I have to declare or import the capital Img. Lowercase tags are already built into the JSX HTML framework. However, I have to write import and say capital Img from Gatsby Img and drop it in like that. Now I do not need to import the large image up here, and I can take out the React Bootstrap as well. What I need, let me put these more together, are these two components. I need to use the GraphQL where all the magic happens, and I have to use the capital I. Now by default, if I save this, the error messages it's going to show me, or if I'm not even running it at all, let me go back and set up the Gatsby develop, that it will tell me that I have not used the GraphQL or the image piece yet. Notice that they are darkened out. So if I do run this, let's put this over here, it's going to analyze it, and eventually it's going to give me two error messages saying, hey, just a warning, you haven't used these yet. And that's because, well, we haven't. So let's go into our code and actually write a query. What I'm going to do is down below export default image, I'm going to write the following. I'm going to say export construct or const query and equal, excuse me, I'm going to say graph, if I can type correctly, GraphQL, which now we are pulling from up here within the Gatsby framework. GraphQL, I'm going to use the backticks, add them twice, hit the return key, and drop it down. Now, what is my query going to be? Well, it's going to be a query, so I have to type in query. And in here, I will add, let's move that up there. Inside this query, well, I want it to name a file name. I want to give it, like we had that word import and we had a word. So I'm going to call this one large image. And this is going to be the file, and using the relative path, because we defined that previously within the Gatsby config file, which has already been set up thanks to the Gatsby starter default library. I'm going to say file relative path colon, and in here, add the curly brackets and say this is going to equal the file name of large .jpg, not a comma, making sure you use the entire file name in here. So if we go back to the Finder, I'm looking for large photo.jpg. Beware if you do have a PNG or a JPEG, this will not work with GIFs. So this is where our path leads us down. So I'm going to add curly brackets after the parentheses. And in here, I'm going to say child image sharp. This is an element that works with the Gatsby image to maintain the sharpness. I'm going to hit space, curly brackets, and say fluid. In Gatsby image, you get a choice of fixed or fluid. I'm going to say max width 2000. I want the picture to be pretty darn big. Add the curly bracket and say ... Gatsby image sharp fluid. I didn't make that word up. If we actually head over to the Gatsby image, notice that I wrote Gatsby image sharp fluid with the aforementioned 3 periods. If I save this, let's see what warnings it gives us. Hey, we're down to 1. The image tag is defined but never used. Awesome. Let's go ahead and use the image tag. So what I want to do up here now is I'm going to type, let's make it one more space. So we have a couple spaces above, a couple spaces below. I'm going to say image. Now it's not going to be written as a circ. It's going to be written as fluid in here. And fluid has to follow this line of information going down to the word fluid. Now, in order to pull data from this information, I have to use an element called data. And I've already put that in by typing curly brackets and the word data. So I can use this as a pass-through information and say the following. Data, and I'm looking for a large image. So I'll say large image dot, let's follow it down. Large image, child image sharp dot fluid. And what that's going to do is it's going to say, hey, pull the information from the data that includes the large image, child image sharp, and fluid. And in here, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add the fade in. That's like essentially like a jQuery lazy load. It's going to fade it in, essentially. It's a Boolean. It's an element. And in here, I will also say alt beach from the South Pacific. Now, what you can also do if this is too long on your screen is you can also hit the return key, which I do a lot of these times, and say, you know what, let's just move it down this way, and then that way it's a little easier to read all the information and making sure we have it lined up. Just, it's up to you if you want to do that or not. You can have spaces, no spaces, all of that, but readability is crucial. Let's save this and see if I got it right. Did I hit save? Hey, success. So far, so good. Let's take a look at our project at localhost 8000, and it's looking great. Like this picture loads. So, of course, the picture loaded before from the previous tags, but let's build this and then run it through the Google PageSpeed Insights and see how it changes the page speed using this image tag. So, what I'm going to do is stop the server. Not Gatsby develop, but Gatsby build. And while it's starting to build, I'm going to bring in this production deploys from Netlify. Once again, using my sandbox.designerwhocodes.com. Do note that if you're watching this at a later time, this project may or may not be there because I use the sandbox, just as you see here, to change, to try, to do things with the subdomain as needed. All right, it built it in 23 seconds. Looking good. Let's go drag and drop this public folder. Here we go. Drag it in and uploading, published. So now the trick is we have to go run the PageSpeed Insights again. Let's see the difference that this tag makes, which is different than the other two tags. So we'll analyze it. Dude, we hit 100 out of 100. We went from an orange to a perfect 100 on mobile. And the desktop is a perfect 100. As in, everything is in the green. What I kind of laugh about Google sometimes, it kind of says, you know, if you just went from 296 to 233, you would have been perfect. And I'm like, come on, Gatsby, make it better. But check this out. We literally went from in the orange on both numbers to a perfect score of 100 by 100. That's awesome. As in, really awesome. That's really great. So that's good, but what I'm missing is what if I want to round the corners? What if I kind of want to add the React elements of Bootstrap into this picture, but I can't use the image? So here is a hot tip. There is always the vanilla Bootstrap to get you through when you can't use these certain tags inside of React Bootstrap. And let me show you how you can accomplish that. Here's the awesome part when it comes to React Bootstrap. You can also install vanilla Bootstrap, but when you already install React Bootstrap, vanilla Bootstrap is already built into the system. So if we go over to the vanilla style, which is just getbootstrap.com, and I'm in the docs for content and images, the images works the same way as React Bootstrap, just written differently. So here's the thing. We already built this to be fluid because it already says fluid here. But if I want to round the rectangle, I have to find, if I go down here, and I'm looking for the class rounded. Now, of course, we're typing JSX, which is going to be class name. But if I add this class, so if I go into the image and I say class name equals rounded to this image, and I save it, and of course I have to restart my Gatsby develop, you can implement the vanilla version of Bootstrap, which is getbootstrap.com. Works the same way as React Bootstrap. They're still the same framework. We're just writing React components within the React Bootstrap, and you just have to modify the vanilla version to work with how you want it to work. From class, we have class name, just changing those pieces of it all. And so I can say class rounded, and so far, no error messages. Let's take a look and see what happens. If we go to localhost 8000, now I rounded those corners in the, of course, I'm going to say top left, but they're all four corners, utilizing the Gatsby image with the vanilla version of Bootstrap. And so to kind of round this out, which is a very, very poor pun, and I do apologize in advance, the image, or the lowercase image, where if I say image something at it in that area, it's good. However, if we can use the capital I, when we go back and take a look at those page speeds insights, we went from in that orange range to pure 100. And that is the power of Gatsby Image. It does take a little work to understand how the GraphQL works, but once you understand it and implement it, it makes your sites truly, truly fast. And that is the difference between lowercase img, capital image, and capital IMG when it comes to Gatsby.